first off, I want to say I feel like a lot of the air kind of wasn't cleared from my perspective, and I am a person who really thrives on clarity. Would I be lying to say that you stoked those flames in any capacity? Like that you wanted like spicy hot drama?
Yeah, sure, of course I did, yeah.
You're intentionally stoking it up, telling people, you guys want some spice? Fine, I'll invite them on here. I'm willing to invite. You know exactly what you're doing.
I don't know. I disagree with your framing of it. I don't think that's how. I mean, listen. I know. I don't need to justify it. I think you're a shit moderator. I'm not going to justify it any further.
I didn't
No, I'm
say
not
you
going to.
need
I think you're a shit moderator. There we go.
Okay, I got
Conversation over. Any more questions?
Look, Chuck.
Oh, hey.
How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty blessed, actually. Um, all right. So here's the deal. A lot of the air kind of wasn't cleared from my perspective.
Yeah, sure.
Because when we were having the discussion, Mr. Grow was kind of moderating my responses, and everything felt like kind of rushed. Um, and I am a person who really thrives on clarity. But with all that being said, I didn't want this conversation to be on stream for that reason because people tend to be a little bit performative and things like that, and there's added pressure and all that kind of stuff. But I absolutely would like you to record this conversation. I think it could easily produce something that's revelatory, and you might feel like it's content worthy. But the
Okay.
purpose of this conversation is not to create content, right? Like that's not my purpose here.
Sure. Okay.
I
So if I just open up like OBS and maybe start recording, would that be
Perfectly fine. I am recording the conversation as well.
okay? Cool. I've just hit record. So yeah, let's chat. What are you thinking?
Okay, so the whole purpose right now is I really want to get to the heart of everything that kind of happened, and
Cool.
so I can get some resolution that I again incredibly thrive on. Okay, so the panel thing, I invited you to it, and obviously, like I've talked about what the Fanatiq show is about and all of those things. And I think this Dr. K situation, I think it's really serious, and I think it needs some actual attention. I actually think it's a good thing that Mr. Girl kind of brought up some of the things that he did. I think it's a good thing that like that there's documentaries and things being made about that because I think there is a real conversation that needs to be had because I think there's potential for harm. But all of that aside, like the panel was supposed to be to discuss those things, and it didn't necessarily need to be argumentative. And I feel like I made it crystal clear that I didn't care about content and that my primary goal was conversation over content. Do you feel like that's
Okay.
fair?
Um, I think yeah, what you said to me was it wasn't about like anti-hot take, anti-drama, anti-argument. Um, so yeah, I see where you're coming from. Um, I do think though inevitably, regardless of what you call it, you are still creating a piece of content, right?
Sure. But,
Um,
well, so this is the thing, and I think that gets to the nature of it, right? Where, yes, no matter what, I am absolutely creating content, but my objective is for quality of conversation over content. And when I'm saying I'm not trying to create content, what I mean is that we obviously recognize in like Twitch spaces and things like that, a lot of times the content doesn't have to have any substance, right? It really can just be people yelling and screaming where nothing is really being discussed that well, and we're just kind of taking jabs at each other. And that is entertaining for a lot of people because they don't truly care about actual substance. And so when I'm saying that I'm not trying to create content, what I really mean is I'm trying to make sure that there is actual substance. And if that substance is something that is not going to be well received by everyone because it doesn't align with what they think is content, then I'm perfectly fine with that. That's kind of what I'm getting at when I say quality of conversation over content, or not content heavy, or not argumentative, and all of those things, because obviously all of those things are what attract people, right?
yeah, sure.
Okay, and so I want to just kind of go through a bunch of these things. Number one, my Twitter, where I kind of explained where I like posted what it was. I made the statement. These conversations are about dialogue and not hot internet takes, right? When I invited
Mhm.
you, I said, I'm not sure if you watched the other episode. This is verbatim, actually. I said, I'm not sure if you watched the other episodes of The Fanatic Show, but the show is anti hot take anti-drama, anti-argument, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Then in my opening monologue at the very beginning of the show, I'm like, hey, the purpose of this show is to make sure that we're having quality of conversation. This isn't about Twitch hot takes, about takedowns, quick jabs, all of these things. This is about conversation, where this will not be about like just trying to entertain and all those things. And I like made it very crystal clear in my opening monologue that that was my goal. And then on top of that, of course, I've already done several other episodes where those things were happening, and I feel like there was like an immediate attestation to like any kind of drama, like immediately, right? Like the second you said something where it was like spicy, I immediately jumped in like, hey, wait, like no, I don't like we're not
Okay.
doing that,
Listen,
so
sorry,
on
if
and
you can
so
just
forth.
talk. Let me get in. Okay.
Sure.
It's
Sorry,
very, it's
I'm not.
very. No,
Just
no,
to be
it's okay.
clear, I'm not trying to like overtalk you.
No, no,
Okay,
no, that's fine. It's just
before we do that, really quick,
I get,
how long
yeah,
do
yeah.
you have for this conversation?
I've got like 30 minutes, say, probably something like that. So, hopefully that's enough time.
Do
What
you
do you?
think do you think maybe we should reschedule? Because that I think that's another problem. Is I feel like sometimes because of the rush and the pressure,
Look,
then that encourages
okay,
people to
listen.
do that.
I just look. I don't mean to be rude. This is all kind of like appreciate. You want to start. I'm willing to give you time now. I'd rather just get it done now. Okay, so we'll just take as long as you feel it needs. Um,
But if you only have
you
30
know,
minutes, I don't know that we'd be able to
No,
fully
that's okay.
cover this.
It's all I'm like. I don't want to spend ages fucking, going all over this stuff. Sorry for swearing. I don't want to. I don't want to spend ages going over this stuff again and again. Like, I just want to get it done. So if it takes like an hour now, say, we'll talk about it now. But I'm not looking to talk to you for like hours about this thing. Is what I'm trying to get at.
Sure, it doesn't need hours. I think maybe about an hour
Okay.
is good. But because we
Okay.
have an hour and there's only two of us talking, then there shouldn't be this like pressure or need to like
Sure.
whatever.
Sure. Okay. I just, I just before we get off into some of the more detailed parts, I guess the point I want to make to you, and I don't know if you heard exactly what DB said to me, but DB said that I was like a vulture. He said I was like unethical. He said I was kind of preying on, I can't remember the exact words, but he said I was kind of preying on like the situation and stuff like that. So I guess that my question to you would be, I accept and I've accepted that I acted, in an aggressive way, but why did you not apply the same standard to Doobie when he literally called me like a vulture?
So I didn't
It's
hear
just because he
him.
said it calmly.
I didn't hear him say the word vulture, nor did I hear him say you are immoral, nor did I hear him say that you are unethical. What he did say was something that you were doing was unethical, and I know that like in the internet spaces, we kind of want to like take things as bad faith as possible, or like stretch them to whatever. But in reality, what he was saying was, I think this action, this thing, could be really harm to healthy gamer, which I think has a net good, and so therefore I think it is immoral if it's unjustified. And so then at this point, you can easily, or maybe not easily, but at this point, as opposed to getting the response I would hope in a conversation with adults would be to respond to that thing and explain how it's not immoral, explain how it's justified, and why you feel like it's well founded. Do you think that's the best possible response to that situation in a non-internet hot take way?
It's like if you were around a table talking with people, you'd maybe approach it in a different fashion. But the point I'd make to that is that I could tell that Doobie hadn't even watched my content about it, which turned out to be obviously true. So, I started questioning him, like, well, what have I said specifically? He tries to pivot off and say, oh, well, no, it's what I assumed or something like that. And I said, no, what specifically have I said? And I admit, I started to get a bit frustrated. But you cutting it off, like, I think you were trying to cut off, like, the drama aspect, which I get. But I think because you hadn't heard him, like, call me a vulture, for example, you can go back and listen to it, he definitely did. Maybe gave you this impression that I was just reacting really hostilely, completely out of nowhere. And I don't think it was completely out of nowhere. Doobie was saying things in a provocative way to get a reaction out of me, um, which I would say is drama betting on Doobie's part. So,
Do
yeah,
you
it just felt like I was being kind of singled out when Doobie was like doing stuff as well that was kind of, he's acting like a dick as well, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
I hear you, and I truly believe that that's how you felt. Do you think that it would have been a proper thing, given the environment and everything? Do you think that addressing, like justifying, if you will, or validating those claims and explaining where they're coming from and that they're well founded and that they're not intended to be harmful, do you think that would have been the best possible way to respond in that situation?
I mean, yeah, obviously there is a very specific, measured way I could have responded. Um, Yeah, sure, of course. Like obviously, the calmer you are when you engage with someone, the better it's going to be. Um,
Especially
yeah,
in an environment where like the moderator and host and the inviter are like gone out of their way through all of the ways that I was detailing earlier to make it crystal clear to literally every single guest that this is my intention, this is my goal, this is the purpose, etc. And so then it seems like to go ahead and not respond in that way almost seems like an intentional disregard for for that action for that and
yeah, of
again
course.
and
I'm a kind of person that's going to push back against rules, and you know, my content is all about like I'm a very fiery character, and if there's rules in place, I don't really care. I'll tend to push back against them if I think it will be, you know, if I want to.
sure you could, do you think it's unfounded to call that disrespect?
Um, I don't. Yeah, I mean, if you want to think, you know, I don't have a problem with you saying I was disrespectful. I guess no. I mean, yeah, I was being, especially when I was trying to get Mr. Girl on. Yeah, I would accept that I was being, you know, disrespectful. Sure.
Okay,
Um,
and then
I
another
don't think I've ever, I don't think I've ever argued that I was being respectful to your panel and your rules. I literally, you know, was exceptionally rude when I left. Like, obviously, I was trying to be rude to you.
but not just when you left that you were also like rather rude like during the conversation itself like early on.
I think that, yes, I mean, I'd say that I was getting frustrated, but that was also because I didn't feel like you were moderating in a very good way, and you were really clamping down on what I wanted to say. Um, so I think that whilst you know, you could say I was disrespectful to you that way. I mean, the disrespect was returned because you just admitted you didn't listen to what Doobie said,
I did not
and
admit to that. I didn't admit to not listening to what Doopy said.
well, you
Like
said you
people
didn't
are
even call me a
talking. People,
vulture.
if I didn't hear a specific word or that specific word didn't stand out to me, that's not the same as not hearing or not listening or not paying attention or not attempting to moderate. Clearly, there's a world of difference between those two things, right?
Sure, but you made
Okay,
like
so that didn't
zero
happen.
attempts to.
I
No,
ju-
but you made okay. But the point, when I say not listening, you weren't paying full attention to what he's saying. Otherwise, you would have heard him call me a vulture as well.
No, not paying full attention. If someone's saying an entire soliloquy and I'm like trying to like fully engage with what he's saying and trying to get the breadth of what he's talking about, and I don't catch a single word of him saying the word vulture, I don't think that that's indicative of any sort of failure necessarily on my part. And I think what to call it?
I don't think it's a failure.
I think that there can be merit to the notion that someone is trying to be a vulture. And I think even in in a civil conversation, a person can refer to someone's like, "Hey, I think what you're doing in a way like is being a vulture to his community and trying to leech off of that." I don't think that that's a personal attack that merits the response that you gave. Number
Well,
one,
okay.
number two, I don't think
I don't
again.
care.
Okay,
I don't care.
I got you. I get that you don't care. I'm seeing already in this conversation. It seems like you want to kind of take it to a disrespectful place, but we're going to try our best to keep it civil. I don't think that someone saying
You're acting. I don't know what your problem is. You're acting like you're my fucking boss or something. Like
it's
I
not that
literally, you know.
I didn't say that I'm your boss.
Listen, I'm doing you a favor by talking to you. I don't care about any of this. I'm done with it. Okay, I'm not going to come on your shitty panel anymore. But
Okay. I
I don't know what it is.
appreciate that.
You seem to want to have like this grand conversation about it, which is fine. And then you're sat there going, I don't think he said anything that bad to you. It's like, okay, well, I think he did. There we
Okay.
go.
And I
Simple.
get it. And if your feelings are hurt because I don't believe that what he said was warranting of the response that you gave, I don't know what to do with that. I'm not obviously trying to hurt your
Well, it's not that
feelings.
my
I
feelings are
just
hurt. We've just got a
disagree.
different. We just yeah. We that's
Right.
fine.
So
We
then why would it
disagree, and we
warrant?
can.
So why are you getting so obviously offended? Why are your feelings hurt if this is just something that we clearly just ideologically disagree
Because you're
on?
very patronizing. You're extremely patronizing. Okay, maybe you don't realize you're doing it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe you're too stupid to realize that you're doing it, or something like that. Your social skills
I am
aren't quite there.
patronizing, but you're telling
You
me
are
I'm
actually.
stupid. Like what are you talking about,
You
Chad?
are very patronizing. You're a very patronizing
Okay.
person,
Well,
and
I'm
that's
sorry that I
fine.
come
I'm
off
just you
that
know.
way. But let me. So now the second thing I wanted to bring up. Number one, I didn't lie to get anyone on my panel. Right? I didn't even fudge the truth regarding getting any person on my panel because I genuinely, with all of my heart of hearts, believed, and I obviously was correct here, that I was going to be able to get Destiny onto my panel. Um,
You were playing the game. I get it.
sure, but you told someone that I did lie.
Did I say that you lied?
Yes.
Okay. Where did I do that?
When Mr. Girl like said, "Hey, did he tell you that he was going to get you that I was already confirmed on the panel?" And you said, "Yes." He said you were confirmed.
Oh, right, okay. I clarified this in the coverage the next day when I spoke about it. But I accepted that I'd misread the message. I even misread the message again on stream, and I said I thought, based on how you put the message, that Mr. Go was confirmed, but he wasn't. He was just a potential guest. So, yeah, that was a misunderstanding rather than like a malicious lie.
It was a misunderstanding on your part.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Next day, I accepted. I said, "Oh yeah, I actually did misread the message. Destiny was I can't remember what phrase you used. It was
Tentative.
tentative. Yes, yeah. Destiny was tentative, and Mr. Girl was tentative. But the way the message was, and this is completely my fault. I read it as Doobie was tentative, Destiny was tentative, and Mr. Girl was going to be there. But that's my bad, and I totally accepted that. And I said on the next stream, I said, "Yeah, that was my error."
Okay, because afterwards, when you and I spoke about it, you kind of walked it back, but it was like almost it was like a softball walk back way, right? Because you said you were like, well, yeah, no, yeah, I mischaracterized or you just said, oh yeah, I mischaracterized what happened. I mischaracterized what happened, and I just felt like to date, still people are making the claim that I lied to get people on stream, and so I was hoping I would be able to get an unequivocal like statement to that fact that I'd never ever
Oh
lied
yeah,
to
sure.
any
Listen, if
person.
listen, I said when I spoke to you, I don't think you're a liar, right? But
Hmm.
to be clear, I don't feel like I was lied to get onto the panel at all. I think that it was more a case of like, with Destiny, for example, you weren't 100% of who was going to be on, but you knew that that was like a big draw, so you sort of mentioned him regardless. But that's not a lie.
As a
That's just
tentative,
playing the
yes,
game.
because I'd
That's
already
tentative. That's,
invited.
that's what you did
Yeah,
too.
and that was the thing that you questioned that like, well, that's not what tentative means, and that's like literally identical to what tentative means, right? Because like
Well,
you,
I no, because I think. Well, no, no, no. Hang on a second. Tentative, you know, to me would suggest maybe some sort of interest. I don't think there was the a relevant interest. It seemed like Destiny had said no, based on what I've been told, based on what I've heard. But
no, he didn't.
um,
He
right, okay.
cause well, I'm sorry. The very first thing Destiny did in that conversation when I invited him, the first thing he did was he said no. He did. And then I said, or wait, no, he said, no, I'm really on this league bender, man. That's what he didn't just say no. He said, I'm on this league bender, which sounds pretty much like a no. Me being the person that I am, I said to Destiny something along the effects of, oh man, it sucks because I really wanted you on this panel, but Anna's gonna be there, so you're not gonna come now, huh? And then his no or his nah, I'm gonna be doing league kind of shifted to a, well, what time is it? So I was like, oh, okay. So this seems like there could be a tiny piece of bait here. Um, then after that, then it was like, okay. So I feel like, okay, I already feel like the fact that this is going to be here, if Mr. Girl joins and already like the topic is hot enough. And I thought about the fact that Destiny, this is my belief about everybody on Twitch. I think everybody on Twitch has this tendency to want to go where the content is. Destiny is not a person who shies away from content or good content in any case. And I thought, he has a league addiction for sure. I don't really care what anybody says about that. But anyway, I figured if he can continue to play League, but also get this content, because I can imagine a person like Destiny who's very aware of his content and all that stuff and his whatever. I can imagine it does feel bad. Like, man, I really want to play this game, but I really want to produce this content. And so I'm going to play the game because that's what I want to do, but I need to produce the content. If I throw you a way that says you can do both, then I feel like there's no way you're not going to take that, which is why I felt very confident that Destiny was going to be on the panel, which it was.
Um, yeah, sure, okay. I mean, my understanding of events is a bit different.
Oh,
My
I got the
thought process, or
timelines. What was your understanding of the events?
my understanding is that, and I admit I haven't seen like the all of the footage of him considering this or something. But what I saw was a message. Off the top of my head, I can't recall exactly what it said. But I saw a message in DGG, which I think was more of a clear no. But then there's a clip of him saying, "Oh well, I've been bullied into it. I'm going to go on the panel now." Um, so that's all I know about it. That's my understanding of what happened.
Mm.
I haven't really looked into it into much. detail. But yeah, you've obviously got DMs with him and stuff. So if he was a bit, maybe he was a bit more secured in your mind. But that was my understanding of it.
I got you. Yeah, I felt like, yeah, it was. I don't know. I guess I just kind of believed what I believed. I obviously was correct. I did bully him. There's no doubt about it. I bullied him into the panel, not in a mean bullying way, but in a kind of
Yeah,
enticing
sure.
bullying way, right? Where it's like,
You enticed them in. That's what I mean. You know, when I say play the game, I don't mean that as like a negative. Like everyone plays the game to, you know, like enticing is a great word. Yeah, sure.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but then also like it's not that you're lying, but you want to entice people to watch it to come on. So you want to use his name to entice others too, right?
Well, sure, absolutely. I think that
Yeah,
certain names being
because
involved in
he's a big
certain
draw.
things is a draw, absolutely. And I think by me, but I wouldn't put his name if I didn't truly believe he was going to be on. And
Oh yeah, I'm sure that if he said to you, "No, I definitely can't come on. I've got another thing I'm doing," I'm sure that you wouldn't have even mentioned his name, right?
right, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, of course, because he wouldn't have been able to be there anyway. So
Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that. I just wanted to clear that one
And
up.
to be clear, if anyone listens to this, I do not think like Fanatic is a liar, and like don't call him a liar. Like that's not on.
Appreciate that genuinely. Next statement. When we were in the panel and you had made the statement that he says, "I'm just like any other psychologist, except I use Ayurveda,"
Yeah.
and I attacked that sentence. I didn't watch the video. I didn't have the context, but I specifically like made the statement that that sentence in and of itself, and I feel like I almost probably would have said that verbatim just because I know my speech patterns, but that sentence in and of itself does not mean that he's a better psychologist or that Ayurveda is better, right? Is that fair to say?
So I think that what annoyed me about that is I'll just I'll answer, but I'll just explain my sort of thinking on it, right? So my frustration with that was basically along the lines of like, it was frustrating because it was like I was seemingly the only person that had actually seen the clip, and everyone was trying to argue with me about like what it was and wasn't said. But at that point, you kind of pulled a random comment from chat. Um, I think that my biggest mistake in dealing with that situation, like I accept that what I should have done, rather than argue about what was and wasn't said, is I should have just sent the clip and said, right, let's not discuss it further till we all know the full context of it. Here's the clip, let's watch it, off we go. That would have been a better way to deal with it than me getting frustrated. I completely accept that. So yeah, I should have just sent the clip through first, because when I did send the clip through, everyone agreed.
Well, sure.
So
But I
yeah,
want to point out one. I did read a message from chat, but there's a billion messages happening in chat, right? Like it's like 500 people, like viewers at the time. It's not like I'm just reading every message from chat. I'm obviously reading a message in chat that obviously I agreed with. That was like kind of my
yeah,
sentiment,
sure,
and my way of like mentioning the chat is to like show them. It's like I'm demonstrating, hey, I'm actually reading your messages. The good messages are the
yeah,
ones that
sure.
I'm actually whatever, while also like voicing something that clearly I thought made sense to me as well, right? And so I think in that sentence, like just to be clear, is it not fair to say, oh, there's one other point that we needed to go through. We'll just finish this. In that sentence, in and of itself, it is not clear to say that Ayurveda is better, right? In that
Well,
sentence,
the
in and of
I
itself.
I think the reason I was frustrated as well is Destiny got it like straight away,
Sure.
and Destiny hasn't seen it, and it seemed to be everyone else that wasn't getting it. So I said at one point like, "What more context could you need?"
Well, yeah,
Now,
but before we get to that, in that sentence, in and of itself, is it necessarily true that Ayurveda is better? Is the question I'm asking.
I mean, I think it's fairly obvious that that's what's being said, but I appreciate other people might be more generous to like what Dr. K is saying or something like that. I've experienced a lot of people that are very generous to like his kind of things that he says. So yeah, with my experience of having dealt with Dr. K people, I should have been aware of that. But yeah, I think it's fairly reasonable to assume he means that it's better because he uses Ayurveda.
I
But
can
if
see
people need
it.
more context, I should be more permissive of that and be more willing to say, hey, let's watch the clip so I can show you.
Sure, I can see that, like, given more context and, like, you already whatever, and different people might be more charitable or less charitable, but I think it is safe to say, factually, like, that it is not enough to just say that sentence alone makes him, think that Ayurveda is better. An example that I came up, an analogy, It's like, for example, if a psychiatrist was to make the statement, I'm a psychologist, but I also prescribe medicine. Now, that doesn't mean that a psychiatrist is better than a psychologist. They're different, right? Because there are plenty of psychologists who don't believe, that don't want to do medicine, that don't believe in medicine. My mother is one. She's never wanted to be a psychiatrist. She doesn't advocate for medicine of any kind, which is why I've never had medicine of any kind. So, like, it's not when for her to make the statement, a psychiatrist is just a psychologist that also prescribes medicine, does not mean that a psychiatrist is better, because obviously in her worldview it's not better. It just means that these things are distinct. You would need more context in order for us to be able to say for sure that something is better. So far, from what I've said so far, is that fair?
I mean, to say for sure, I mean, yeah, obviously, like to say for sure, you would need to see exactly what was said and the way it was said and the tone it was said in order to confirm that for sure. Um, and like I say, I accept that I should have just got the video clip, so rather than getting frustrated with people. But my frustration was rooted in the fact that people were arguing about something they hadn't even seen themselves.
Right. Well, the thing that we were arguing about wasn't about the thing that you saw. We were arguing about the sentence that you stated, because the only thing we could engage with was what you said, because we hadn't seen the clip.
Exactly.
You made a
And
statement
that's what
and we
sure,
addressed
and that's why
your
I should have sent the
statement,
video
and then you
sooner.
got
I
really
agree with that.
angry. And then in response to us referring to the specific sentence that you said, the words that came out of your mouth engaging with you, you then replied, "Well, you guys don't even have the context of the video." To which I asked you, is there any context specifically within this video that would somehow provide, that would help us come to your conclusion? And that was my, like, okay, I'm attacking the words you're saying. You're saying that the video has more context, and you've seen the video and we haven't. And I was just attacking the words. So then I asked you, well, you've seen the video, so can you tell me what context is missing from the actual video? Is there any other context that you can tell me without us having to stop the conversation to watch the video? To which you replied, well, what the freak do you need context for? Or what more context do you need, were the words verbatim?
Yeah, I feel like we're just kind of looping a bit. I agree that, like, yeah, clearly you did need more context, which I then provided to you, and I should have provided that to you earlier. I
For
don't know what else
sure.
to say.
Okay, well, I just want to, for me, a lot of time, I just like to always make sure that everything is stated as closed loop as possible, right? Just to make sure it's very crystal
Okay,
clear.
that's
And
fine.
my purpose is because there's always whatever. Anyway, um, you did touch on this earlier, but you asked me to invite Mr. Girl, and I responded, and then you continued to bring it up. And obviously, to any person, that's going to probably feel, one, annoying, two, disrespectful. Because, one, you admitted that that was rude. Uh, Mr. Girl knew it was rude and was telling you to do it. And you guys kind of had a little
Yep.
bit of a cheeky laugh afterwards about that. And I know that you could have easily DM'd me, right? As opposed to disrupting the panel to do so.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I agree. I agree. I don't think that me asking 3 times anyone would see that as me being like, oh yeah, what a lovely guy trying to get Mr. Go on the panel. I was definitely say, oh, you'd be frustrated by that, rightly so. I think that the reason I was a bit confused is because what you were saying, it didn't it didn't seem like you were going to bring him on at all. And I was thinking, I mean, at the time, I thought that you'd said he was going to be on full stop. But even with him being a potential guest, I thought, I would have thought, well, hang on a sec, like, I thought he was going to be on. Why are you saying no? But obviously, what you meant was when you said it feels weird to add him after the conversation started. I thought that meant you weren't going to add him full stop, but what it meant was you were going to add him after that segment or something, presumably.
Sure. And obviously it would have been more appropriate, because you feel like that didn't make sense or whatever. It would have felt a lot more. It would have made a lot more sense to DM me that, as opposed to disrupting my panel to have that conversation live on air while we're trying to, like,
Yes,
record.
Dad.
And so that's one of those things. You're saying yes, Dad, as if somehow, some kind of way, that it needs me to be in some sort of authoritative position to ask you to be decent in that regard. I don't think it's me trying to be a father figure or patronizing to call that action as indecent. Do you?
Okay. Um, no, I don't think it's indecent, but clearly
It's
you're a
not
fan of
indecent.
authority in
You said
some
it's
regards.
rude. You said it's rude. What is rude? Being rude
Wait,
not indecent? What's the difference between rude and indecent?
I don't know. I don't really care about what the difference between rude and indecent is.
There
What
isn't
is
a
it you want
difference.
from me? What?
There isn't a strong difference. So if you're admitting that it's rude, then that means you have to recognize it's indecent. Or you just don't like the phrase indecent because okay, we'll move past that. I'm not going to hang up on that. I think any person can recognize that being rude is being indecent, and that was a very rude thing that you did, as you admitted yourself. So it was an
I think
indecent
the
thing to do
problem
to my
is I just
panel.
don't really care about being rude and indecent to people. Honestly, that's probably
That's
the issue we're finding here.
perfectly fine, and I respect that. If you own that, like you don't mind being rude and indecent, that's perfectly fine. So then when I refer to it as rude or indecent, then you should be perfectly fine with that, and just oh yes, it was rude and indecent, and I did it, and what, right? Like and what are you going to do about it, more so, right? But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it is rude and indecent, rather than like fighting me on whether or not it's rude and indecent when we know it is. Um, th- okay, so then after everything kind of happened, you started making this claim that that I didn't want you and Mr. Girl in there, right? And I think this is obviously like belied by the fact that I invited you to the panel. I
Wait, when
invited
did I say that?
well, well, when you ask the question, right? When you keep saying like, I don't get why he wouldn't want us both in there, or I don't know why he would kick us. Like I don't know why he wouldn't. I don't know like why he didn't get Mr. Girl in here. I don't get why that's not happening. When you ask those questions and you keep making that statement, then it seems like you're making the implication. I don't. It's not. It doesn't seem like you're definitely at that point making the implication that in some sort of way I didn't want you both in there, which of course is belied by the fact that I clearly invited you both, and by the fact that I felt, obviously, and you've agreed thus far, that all of the previous thing we've discussed so far were incredibly disrespectful and disruptive to my panel. Yet, despite all of that, I was being incredibly patient. And it's like, okay, like, fine, like, all right, yeah, like, please, begging, literally begging, Chud, please. Please, wait, hold on, Chud, please, for the love of God. Like, how many times I kept making these pleas and requests for you to just like kind of dial that back. So it's clearly I wanted you there. I invited you and continue to put up with a bunch of that stuff, right?
Yes,
So
did. Thank you for that.
right. So then I think given all of the aforementioned disrespect, I think that it's clear that I wanted both you and Mr. Girl there, right?
But yeah, sure. But I never assumed that you. Obviously, I accept that the reason you kicked me off is I was being a dickhead, and you were annoyed with me. But like, I don't think I ever said like, I don't think I ever thought, oh, you don't want us both there. My frustration was because I thought you did want us both on there. But then when Mystico was ready to come on, you said no. And I think that was probably somewhat of a confusion on my part because I thought you said he was definitely going to be there. But I think also you could have been a bit more clear. Like if, for example, if you'd have said, "Okay, Mr. Girl wants to come on, I'll bring him on after this segment," like I would have just shut the fuck up and wouldn't have said anything. Sorry for swearing. I would have said shut the hell. I would have just shut up and wouldn't have said anything further about it.
Sure, but I'm not going to accept responsibility for that because I didn't choose my words because my entire intention at that point was just to get you to be quiet about that thing so we could continue on with the conversation because I felt like you were rudely interrupting the panel and rudely
We had to
disrupting the
accept
panel.
responsibility, but that's what
I
happened, and
can't
that's what
accept
I thought at the time.
responsibility for something because I'm responding to a
I don't give a
situation
shit.
that
I
I
don't
shouldn't.
care.
I
I'm
get
trying
you.
not to swear because I know it upsets you. Listen.
I, I,
I listen. At the end of the day, it doesn't
I
matter to me whether you accept responsibility or not. No, this is a totally meaningless thing to me. I don't care about any
sure,
of
I
this.
got
But
you.
sure.
But since you made the statement, I just want to address it and respond. Right? Like that. I
Sure,
think
that's
that's a fair
okay.
thing
But
to
you get
do.
you see, you're the one getting defensive now about taking
I'm
responsibility. I
not.
never
I'm
asked you to
not.
take responsibility.
Well, you
I just
you
said you how it
literally
is.
just did. You just said you have to take responsibility. You just said those words, and I'm saying I don't take responsibility. I don't believe I should have to take responsibility because I don't think I think I'm responding to a situation, and someone is intentionally disrupting my panel after having done so for God knows how long. And at this point, my whole goal is just to move past it and try to sweep it under the rug as quickly as possible so we can continue on because you interrupted another person who was
Sure.
speaking,
But
and
it
I was
wouldn't have been
protecting
any
another
effort for you to go,
guest.
I'm going to bring him on. It wouldn't have been any effort for you to go, oh, I'll just bring him on after this. And then that would have just solved the
My
issue, wouldn't
mind
it?
space was protecting the guest that you were disrespecting in that scenario. So that's what I did, and I don't accept responsibility for having not chosen specific words that would have
Oh,
indicated to
no.
you that some kind of
Wow.
way I was going to do what you wanted me to do on my panel when I feel like you've been disrespectful all that time. You dismissed a lot of your disrespect by kind of pointing out like my cantankerousness on other panels and on your stream once.
Yeah, correct.
Okay,
You want to advocate your needs it too, is what I said.
yeah. So to tell me if this is all fair. Do you think I'm lying when I say that other streamers have literally asked me to be like cantankerous and spicy and things like that on their streams?
Um, I mean, I don't know. I've never had anything like that myself, but I mean, I can't tell. Maybe people have said to you, "Come and be, obnoxious on my panel." Sure, I don't know.
Okay, so that's happened.
Okay.
The stream where I did that on your stream, would I be lying to say that you stoked those flames in any capacity? Like that you wanted like spicy hot drama?
Yeah, sure. Of course I did. Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted me to be spicy, the same way the other streamers have. Other streamers who I have a relationship with have literally asked me to do it. But you, on the other hand, while you didn't directly ask me to do it, you literally label your streams as drama or spicy hot drama, right? Like, so, like the
Yep.
idea that I would be on your stream, and in that moment, when the drama is happening, you're intentionally stoking it up, telling people, you guys want some spice? Fine, I'll invite them on here. I'm willing to invite. You know exactly what you're doing. So, obviously I'm
Yeah, of course.
responding, right, so I'm responding to the stream situation in which you want and desire this thing, and so then you're using my behavior in a situation where it's appropriate to sort of dismiss your behavior in a situation where I've done literally everything I possibly could to explain to you that this is not what's appropriate. Is that fair to say?
Okay. Well, no, because what I'm pointing out there isn't that. What I'm pointing out
No, that's
is
what I'm
you want to
pointing
go
out.
elsewhere,
Is that fair?
right? Well, obviously, you're pointing out what you're trying to point out, of course. But I disagree with your
Is it fair?
framing of what I said. But no, I don't know. I don't. I disagree with your framing of it. I don't think that's how. I mean, listen. That's how I presented it in my mind was different to what you're suggesting.
Okay,
I'm
go
not trying
ahead,
to
I'm sorry.
suggest the kind of direct hypocrisy of like, oh well, look at this. He's going. I'll tell you the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is, you are perfectly willing to go out there into the world and into the world of Twitch and act like we're super obnoxious and stuff, which is fine. But then you want to have like a really super tight ship on your panel, which is also fine. I just found it funny that you were like so particular and anal about all these rules and making sure everyone spoke nicely with the way you act elsewhere. And it just feels like you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to benefit from the clout of going and being obnoxious elsewhere. Then you want to turn your own panel into a little lame little hug box type thing where no one can even raise their voice. That was all.
Okay. I can see how you can see that that's funny. I can see how it's almost ironic that I've like built up a reputation for being particularly loud and rambunctious, but whilst and
Yeah.
then in my own panel saying, by the way, we're actually going to have conversations here, which is contrasted by like my rambunctiousness in other spaces. But that's not it's not unfounded, right? Like in other words, if a dad takes his son to a baseball game and like is yelling obscenities at the pitcher, and tells the son like, yeah, this is what we do here, this is where we do this, I think that dad still has every right to be offended or to chastise his son if that same son goes to school and yells obscenities at his teachers in the classroom, right? Like you can recognize that there's a time and place for some things that is appropriate that might not be appropriate in other places. And when someone goes out of their way and very formally and well defines the environment and the intentions, then I think it's very reasonable for a person to say, while I will be engaging in blood sports other places, this specific stream where I've gone out of my way to label it that way, I've gone out of my way to avoid like the conflicts, I've gone out of my way to moderate any sort of like cantankerousness out of the environment. In this type of situation, it's perfectly well founded for me to say, and it's not having my cake and eating it too, it's perfectly well founded to say, I can do blood sports for the people that want the blood sports, but I don't, right?
Okay. Well, the thing is, yeah, you can. I mean, I don't give a shit about how you do your panel. It's up to you at the end of the day. It's your panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're inviting someone like me, like I'm known for being a bit of a dickhead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I appreciate you're trying to, make me adhere to your rules or whatever. But I'm probably going to end up breaking them. So, I'm probably not going to get invited, and that's fine. I don't mind. But like, you invite Chud Logic, you get Chud Logic. You don't get Chud Logic adhering to your rules because I'm going to respect your rules. I'm going to, push the boundaries of those rules, and I'm going to be a bit obnoxious at times if I want to be. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to be restrained by, what is essentially just a couple of a couple of people in a Discord call and some abstract rules that someone has created about that. I don't really care about that kind of thing. So
I hear you. And the thing is, the reason why I invited you was specifically because, well, I've invited a lot of people, and despite inviting all of those people, everyone else has been able to really control it. I think the hardest person to control in that scenario is Destiny. the hardest person, and it's very, very light. And as you can see, even in that situation, it's not like he's going like it's OD. Yes, he's a spicy dude, and I feel like everyone on Twitch pretty much functions in the same spicy manner. I don't know of any other spaces where that isn't the norm. Yet in my panel, it hasn't been the norm. And I have been able to moderate that out, and everyone has been able to abide by that except for you. So I think it was reasonable for me to think, and I guess now I recognize I'm obviously open to learning, but I think based on like my previous interaction with literally every other person, I think it was very clear to me like, oh, most people, when you really laid out to them like, hey, this is what this is what this panel is about, and so on and so forth, most people are able to handle that. And I think we all have to. Like, you know, you got to be decent in the courtroom. You know, you got to be decent in the classroom. You know, you're going to be some sort of decent talking to your parents. You know, sometimes certain friends are like not the type to really be able to entertain edgy humor. So it's like, okay, I'll kind of hold back that humor around this specific friend group. You might be different towards your children and saying like, hey, you know what? I might be a really raunchy person, but I'm not going to be that way in front of my kids. So I think there's plenty of time where we recognize that there are different circumstances that require us to modify behavior. And so I thought, like everyone else, all of the other adults I've ever invited to my platform, that this is behavior that can be modified. So I don't think it's unreasonable or unfounded. And I think Mr. Girl asked this question and you entertained it. Like, well, why would he invite Anna and Destiny if he wants a chill platform? And the honest reason for that was because I wanted to like demonstrate that despite the fact that we have these two people where people really, really heavily expect there to be some crazy, spicy drama nonsense, I want to demonstrate that regardless of who's invited, these people can be civil, that people do have personal lives and they touch grass, so they know how to modify their behavior. Not everyone's going to be some immature ignoramus. And so that was my reason for even inviting them. And I think even in those circumstances, both of them were very, very chill. Do you disagree?
I mean, yeah, they were chill, and I can see what you were trying to do. I just, yeah,
Disrupted that.
I did, yeah, because it was boring. Your panel's fucking boring, bro.
Absolutely. And I get it. And I've gotten that complaint before. I know that it's going to be boring. Obviously, if I've been like one of the most rambunctious niggas in panels for God knows how long, I recognize that entertainment is kind of caused by being a very explosive, bombastic character. But if I'm trying to aim for something else, then it's like, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice what can be expected growth in that sphere, because I don't think that that's something that I really want for me, like personally, like for as I move on and do more things in life, I just don't want that to be what I'm doing with my time, with my legacy, and my platform. And I
But that's
guess
fine. I mean, I'm interested in getting viewers and growing my platform,
yes,
and this whole thing has obviously benefited me greatly on that. So for that, I actually thank you. It's actually been really good, all in all, for me.
that's cool.
But yeah, it is what it is. I guess we just got different goals.
A
I actually
hundred
want to get
percent.
viewers.
Yeah, sure. And I think I want to get viewers, but I only want to get viewers if they're going to be viewers that are actually engaged in the content. But it's a personal thing. This is a personal moral thing that I want to do, that I have a goal. Where I've been in a place where it's just like, no, I'm just doing whatever I got to do to get the numbers and get money and whatever and so on and so forth. But I feel like there's just certain times where you get to different places and you want different things. There's not to say that there will never be a time where I do something specifically for optics or specifically for views or whatever the case is. But there also comes a time where it's like, man, I want to leave something that I'm proud of, and this is something that I want to be proud of, and I'm taking it very seriously. And so then that's my intention. And I think it's in this conversation and previously, you've stated on God knows how many times that you didn't care about my rules, you didn't care about my goals, you didn't care about my platform, which all of those things, all the things that we've discussed this far in this conversation, I think it's really, really fair to say that this all amounts to a complete disrespect. Do you disagree with that?
I mean, yeah, I don't respect you, sure, but why
Okay.
would I respect you?
Not just that you don't respect me, that you disrespected me. Do you-
Well, yeah, I don't respect you, so yeah, sure, I disrespected you. Fuck you,
okay,
Fanatic.
okay.
Fuck you,
And,
okay?
and that's perfectly cool. Do you think that it's 100% fair and reasonable, considering how disrespectful you were, for me to then say, I'm kicking you from the panel because you clearly have been disrespectful this entire time?
I never have said that you were like in the wrong for kicking me out after I asked 3 times, Mr. Go. My problem is with the fact that you didn't moderate the panel fairly, and you've got all these excuses for it. But I just disagree. I think you did a shit job moderating the panel, and you wanted to come down hard on me because I was getting the spiciest, most obviously, and that's fine. That's not a problem. You don't want me on your panel. I don't want to come on your panel.
That's
So
cool.
it's resolved, and I
Okay,
don't think I don't. We're probably not going to be fucking pally. Do you know what I mean? That's fine.
for sure. And the entire extent of this poorly moderating panel for you was specifically because that one opening statement by Doobie, you feel like that justified the 30 remaining minutes, or do you feel like you have a single example outside of that one statement by Doobie for the next 30 minutes that's indicative of this poor moderation that you're referring to?
Now you're getting upset because I referred to it as poor
I'm not upset.
moderation.
I'm asking you to justify it.
Your
I'm not
poor
upset at
moderation.
all.
I know I don't need to justify it. I think you're a shit
I'm
moderator.
asking
I'm
you
not going to
to.
justify it any further.
I didn't
No, I'm
say
not
you
going to.
need
I think you're a
to.
shit moderator. There we go.
Okay, I got
Conversation
it.
over. Any
I,
more questions?
look, Chud. First off, I just want to say I absolutely appreciate you for being willing to have this conversation. I know a lot of times people are
Listen, I feel bad. Listen,
whatever.
wait. I feel
No,
bad.
no,
I
no, no,
feel
no,
bad.
no, no!
Okay.
Don't
No,
please don't feel bad on my
wait.
behalf. Please don't feel bad on my behalf.
No, I do because I'm
Okay.
acting like such a dickhead, and I actually want to say, listen, I do want to say this, okay? I do respect the fact that you want to have a good conversation. I think that that's important. I'm just very skeptical about the ability to do that, but obviously, I do hope you are able to get some success having more reasonable conversations and not just blood sports. Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Okay, I appreciate that. And like my feelings, I I gotta have a certain level of respect for someone before like the disrespect starts cutting deep. You know what I mean? And our
Sure.
only interactions thus far have been, in my opinion, you disrespecting me. So then, because of that, it's hard for me to be like heavily invested in like your disrespect in that way, where it's like personally impacting me. Whatever the case is, I do appreciate you being willing to have this conversation. I did feel like there were plenty of times where you were talking to Mr. Girl and you were saying things like, I can't believe he kicked me, bro. And I don't understand. Da, 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 da. And a lot of your fans, a lot of your community have been attacking me for kicking you and Mr. Girl. And so I was hoping that this conversation would kind of clear up what happened. And I'm glad that thus far you have agreed that everything that I've mentioned so far did very much amount to a heavy, heavy dosage of disrespect, which is why I kicked you. Which I feel was absolutely why I attempted to kick you, but you told me that you left on your own, which makes it even better because I would never want to really kick somebody from my panel. That's not what I'm interested in. So that's really
Yeah,
what
sure.
one of the main
Listen,
purposes.
to be clear, right? Obviously, I was heated. Okay, I was very heated. So my perception of it at the time was like, yeah, fuck you, etc. But yeah, of course, on reflection, like looking back, especially when I asked like 3 times about Mr. Girl, I get why that would be frustrating for you. So yeah, I don't have like the fact you kicked me. It just suggests to me that my attitude and approach just probably isn't compatible with what you're trying to do, which is fine.
For sure, man. All right, man. I think that's
Yeah.
pretty much all I got to say. You have anything else?
No, I don't. Listen. I do want to say, listen. I know that I've been a dickhead, okay, and in this conversation, I've been a dickhead too. And yeah, I do wish you all the best. I hope everything pans out for you, and I hope this panel idea kind of continues. And what have you got lined up next? Anything exciting or?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about Ukraine and Russia, but then also
Oh, damn.
within Ukraine and Russia, we got to talk about the racism that's happening there. I don't know if you've like heard about the Africans and other
No,
black
what's that
people.
about?
So basically, they have like a boarding order to get on the trains to flee, like the places that are like under siege and things. And the boarding orders are children, women, men, black people. And so there's a bunch of black people
Jesus.
who aren't allowed to flee the country. So it's really problematic. And then of course on CNN and all these other places, like really high officials of places like Poland and where people are fleeing to, are making statements like, well, this is really, you have to understand that this is like personally harming me so much more because these are blonde hair, blue eyes people that are having to deal with war, and so this isn't some Iraqis or Irani or Afghani people. Like this is something that this really hurts. Another person said, I don't remember all the quotes. I have them like written down in the video, but and I'm not gonna prepare that. But yeah, basically in the news they've been talking about, well, like, yeah, you can expect this sort of thing in all these other places, but this is happening to white people, so it's problematic. And to verbally state that seems so on its face racist. I don't know what the freak else to do. And then to see the policies of police officers pushing black people off the train to make room for white people, And all of those things I think is particularly heinous. And I think it's something that's entirely slept on. Like most people aren't talking about it, despite video evidence. And then after all of the video evidence and testimony of the individuals and us being able to witness this thing with our own eyeballs, then for the people to go and say, no, 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 this is Russian propaganda, this isn't actually happening, is completely absurd to me. But of
Yeah,
course,
I agree. I
we're
mean,
talking
if there's,
about
like,
that
evidence.
and Ukraine and Russia. You know what I mean? Like those are two separate
Yeah, yeah.
issues, kind of in one.
I mean, yeah, obviously that's if there's like hard evidence, that's just totally wrong. I can't believe people are like downplaying that. That's fucked up. That's
Yeah,
messed up. So yeah.
pretty gross. But
Okay.
it'll be a good conversation, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that,
Thank you
and
so much, man.
all the best for the future. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Peace out.
Cheers. Bye bye.